Hi folks, it is week 7 in basic chemistry, and this week we are going to continue with that process of converting units. So last week we started that, and remember the reason we're doing all this is part of being a scientist, part of being able to convert dosages and how many milliliters per hour a patient might be getting of a medication or an IV drip or whatever, is you have to be able to do those conversions. You have to be able to do these conversions for your HESI test or a standardized test of any sort. And that's why we're practicing this. It is an essential skill for chemistry. And as we continue through the semester, you're going to see conversions of this type over and over and over. So this is a skill that is just important in all areas of science and very important in chemistry. So we're going to continue with converting. Then we are going to also talk about density. Density is something you have an intuitive understanding of. If I said name something with a high density, you could say bricks or lead or a big rock, and you would know what I meant. Low density, styrofoam or whipped cream or clouds, and you would have you know what I mean by density. But there are specific uses of that idea. That concept of density is used when you're testing or identifying a chemical compound. On the back of that periodic table, if you happen to print the front and the back, no, I'm sorry, it's on the front of the periodic table. For every element, one of the pieces of data that is given is actually the density. It is a way of identifying elements and compounds. It is a physical property of objects. And so density is important in the overall realm of science. So those are the big ideas we're going to talk about this week. Let's go take a tour of Canvas and see what we are up to. The first topic we're going to talk about this week is significant digits. Now, as you and I have been working on our calculations through converting and through the metric system and things like that, I have been rounding off to certain numbers of digits, and I've been saying, we'll worry about it later. And the reason I haven't talked about significant digits, also called significant figures, right at the get-go is because I've been teaching a long time, and some students lock up immediately when we start talking about these, and they go, until I figure this out, I can't go any further. And truthfully, in this class, don't worry about it too much. There are a whole bunch of rules for significant digits and significant figures, and that's why you take math, and that's what they teach in math class. We're going to give you a broad overview of this concept of significant digits and significant figures. I want you to have a good idea of how it works, why we bother with it, why it's important in science, and then we're going to use it. And we're going to keep doing what we've always been doing as we've been calculating through this course. But promise me you won't freak out and go, I don't understand, because it's really not that bad. When it comes to the significant digits and significant figures, I've got one video on it. And then the final word, remember the big rule when calculating is don't end up with more digits than you start with. So if you start with 5 digits in a number, you can't end up with 23 because the rest of that is just blah, and it really doesn't make any difference. It really doesn't matter in the world of science. So we're going to start talking about that. There's a few sections of our free online textbook that you can reference. As always, our weekly notes that you are encouraged to print. After we have a discussion of significant digits, we are going to go forth and talk some about our study guide, as always, with our key that by now I hope you know how to use that wisely and realize that it is a good helper to get you prepped for those quizzes. The next thing we're going to get into is converting more complex units. If you have not downloaded that SI conversion factor yet, one more time, this is the last time it's going to pop up in the course, is that sheet, but it is the same sheet that has appeared 2-3 times in the class. We're going to talk about converting units that have tops and bottoms, like miles per hour, milliliters per hour in drip rate of an IV, something like that. what do you do? And the good news with those kind of conversions is you do them exactly the same. From here on out, all our conversions are going to be done exactly the same with the TIE Fighter method. But I just want to give you lots of experience and practice with these slightly different formats. So again, you feel confident and you go, okay, I've seen that, I can do that. And that's the general idea. Expose you slowly to different ways of doing it so that it's just comfortable. After the tops and bottoms, we're then going to talk about converting square and cube numbers, square meters to square feet to square yards, and volume units, cubic centimeters to cubic meters, cubic yards, etc. Again, don't freak when we get there because the method is exactly the same. We're going to use the TIE Fighters, but I'm going to show you how to use them so that, again, not scary, not weird, it's the same thing we've done. Also, when you get these problems on this week's quiz, remember Mary is evil and tricky. Your quiz questions this week, I'm not going to have you convert square meters into square feet because you can do that on Google. I'm going to have you convert square dogs into square cats. Why? Because I want you to learn the skill. And in order to prove that you know that, that's how I'm going to ask you to prove it. So we're going to haul out some of those wacky units, and there will be practice on this week's study guide. So it shouldn't be too unusual. Then we're going to talk about this concept of density. Density, which is that, bricks versus styrofoam kind of concept. It also determines if something is going to float or sink. We're going to talk about it in general. What does it mean? How is it used? And then we are going to apply the density equation and do some mathematical density problems. There will be some mathematical density problems on this week's quiz. When you are doing the math problems and submitting them with the study guide, yes, it is acceptable to do them on separate paper. Scan your study guide, scan those math problems, upload them as one document, one batch file. So I only have to open one file in order to grade everything. Because as you know, ladies and gentlemen, we're in this together. And if I have to open 8 documents to grade one of your assignments, that's not cool. And it's going to be rejected, and I'm going to ask you to do it again. So definitely make sure you only upload one document for your assignment. That is going to be it for this week. Then, of course, we have our quiz. A little more time allowed than a typical quiz, and the reason for that is because you're going to be calculating, and I want to give you time to calculate. You don't get all the time in the world to do it because, again, during the quiz is not the time to start learning stuff. That's where you get to prove that, hey, I got this, I did my stuff, and you're in good shape. All right, have a fabulous week, and be in touch. See you later. Bye-bye.